I know. I think it's too like it's a balance between like, you either
get rich or die trying.
Definitely, that's philosophy.
That is.
But you either create stuff or you sell stuff. You know what I mean?
Oh, you think there's a real salesman creator?
No, I just think like there's in order to have something that gets funded in the way that our system facilitates it, it seems like of everything that we produce, like, because here's my paradigm. I look and I'm like, I think there's a lot of like really talented people in Canada. I don't think we just have like some genetic disposition to like being creative, and doing cool stuff, but we don't seem to have very much stuff that reflects that.
There isn't. It doesn't. I remember being a kid, never thinking, "Oh, I could grow up and make movies, and it would be so like." There's almost a Canadian passivity. Even in film school, I found. You went to film school too, so I mean, did you ever feel like, when I was in film school, I never felt like, oh, one of us is going to be the next great Canadian filmmaker, because who is that person? Like, who is that even? Like, I never felt like there was a cultural ambition for greatness, at least in filmmaking in this country. Whereas in America, I was at film school in America for just a little while, for just like 2 months basically, and everybody there is like, oh my God, I'm going to be the next whatever, the next whatever, the next whatever. These little kids, 15, 16 years old, they have this fire in their eyes and they're just so motivated to do all this stuff. It was just the same way in Britain with that Ken Loach. Everybody wants to be that guy. Am I close?
I think that's film school.
You didn't go to film school?
I went to art school instead.
Decent. Going to art school is also cool. What was the question?
I was talking about like,
Do you guys have funding for this movie?
Yeah, it's Sun TV's the broadcaster. They give us the license.
Broadcasters.
Yeah.
I found that ever since I started working with these producers, Matt Miller and Ezra, that's where they get all their money from, is like broadcasters, like Super Channel and stuff like that. That's their style.
And they do features? Or?
Yeah, they finished a feeture and they got, I don't know where they got their money from initially, but they're sort of a play-by-the-rules type guys. They're older, they're in their 30s. You start following the rules by that time because you start to get scared that it's never going to happen for you.
Well, the other like difficult balance too is like, and I was going to ask you this, like, what you come out of film school and then you realize, like, for me, I always thought I'd just come out and like, there's an industry and there's going to be opportunity and I'll make my first film and everything, and then it was like, oh, they didn't teach me any of this in film school. I didn't realize like.
Well, they don't teach you how to work in the industry.
Yeah, well, and how to like sustain yourself and make a living, right? Like
that's always the trouble, and that's sort of the sad thing, is that if you really have no money, like if you are really broke, it's really hard to get over like how you're going to make movies. I think the only reason that we were able to make that show was because we had some luck in that. I mean, the show we made was insanely cheap. It had a budget of $0, but that we were all comfortable. We weren't in like terrible debt or anything, the people who were working on it. And I would imagine if you came out of film school owing like $40,000, you just have to work in an office or something like that to pay that off for years, which is, I think, the situation with most of the people we went to film school with. Yeah. In fact, I would say over 50% of the people that I went to film school with just have 9-to-5 jobs working in some totally unrelated industry, and they're just trying to pay off their film school debts, which is very depressing.
Yeah.
Which is very depressing. But and of all the people I went to film school with, I'd say, there are 3 or maybe 4 who are working, and only 2 of them who are doing anything worth watching. The rest of the stuff is just awful stuff. But that's not to say don't go to film school. Film school is great.